Nobody expected the nation's top airline pilot to be schooled by Hollywood's most intense action star. Captain Robert Henderson, president of the Airline Pilots Association, leaned back in his chair with dismissive confidence as he prepared to expose Tom Cruise's aviation pretensions in front of the industry's top professionals. Mr. Cruise, flying jets in movies doesn't make you a real pilot any more than playing a doctor makes you a surgeon, he declared with crushing professional authority. But what the Top Gun star revealed next would leave Captain Henderson speechless and revolutionize how the aviation industry views Hollywood training. And if you want to see how Hollywood's most dedicated method actor exposed the biggest gaps in commercial aviation training using flight records that stunned industry professionals. Watch this entire story and don't forget to subscribe for more shocking confrontations that the aviation establishment tried to ground. The Airline Pilots Association headquarters in McLean, Virginia buzzed with tension that Wednesday afternoon in May 2026. The conference room on the 15th floor overlooked the Potomac River, but today's meeting would determine whether Hollywood's portrayal of aviation was helping or harming public understanding of commercial flight safety and pilot professionalism. Captain Robert Henderson, at 58, had spent over 3 decades building his reputation as one of America's most respected airline pilots and the most powerful voice in commercial aviation. As president of ALPA, he represented over 65,000 pilots from major airlines across North America, making him arguably the most influential figure in determining professional standards, safety protocols, and industry regulations. That Henderson's journey from regional airline co-pilot to union leadership had been marked by unwavering commitment to aviation safety, professional standards, and protecting the integrity of commercial flight operations. His leadership had guided the industry through major crises, technological transitions, and regulatory changes while maintaining the highest safety record in aviation history. The captain's approach to aviation was methodical and uncompromising. He believed that commercial flying required years of rigorous training, continuous education, and adherence to strict protocols that could never be replicated or understood through entertainment industry simulation. His skepticism toward Hollywood's portrayal of aviation reflected deep concern that movie dramatization could undermine public respect for the complexity and professionalism required for safe commercial operations. That ALPA had requested this meeting with Tom Cruise following the massive success of Top Gun, Maverick, and growing public fascination with aviation careers inspired by Hollywood portrayals. Union leadership was concerned that movie depictions of flying were creating unrealistic expectations among potential pilots, while oversimplifying the extensive training and ongoing education required for commercial aviation careers. Tom Cruise, at 64, had spent the past 4 years immersing himself in aviation training that went far beyond typical Hollywood preparation. His commitment to authenticity in Top Gun, Maverick had led him to pursue actual pilot certification, advanced flight training, and comprehensive study of aviation systems that surprised even military and commercial flight instructors. What Henderson and ALPA leadership didn't realize was that Cruise's aviation education had extended well beyond military jet training to include comprehensive study of commercial aviation operations, safety systems, and industry challenges that would surprise professional pilots who assumed his knowledge was limited to movie stunts and military aircraft. The meeting had been arranged ostensibly to discuss ALPA's concerns about Hollywood's influence on aviation recruitment and public perception. But Henderson had prepared to demonstrate the vast gap between entertainment industry flying and actual commercial aviation professionalism. What nobody anticipated was that Cruise had spent months preparing for this confrontation, studying commercial aviation regulations, safety protocols, and industry challenges with the same intensity he brought to preparing for complex film roles. The conference room was packed with ALPA executives, airline safety directors, flight training specialists, and aviation journalists covering what many viewed as a crucial discussion about the relationship between entertainment and professional aviation standards. As Tom Cruise entered the ALPA conference room that afternoon, he carried himself with the same focused intensity that had made him legendary in Hollywood. But his demeanor suggested someone who understood he was entering a professional environment where his celebrity status would be less important than his actual knowledge and respect for aviation expertise. Captain Henderson's opening was calculated to establish the fundamental distinction between entertainment and professional aviation while positioning himself as the defender of industry standards against Hollywood oversimplification. Mr. Cruise, I want to start by acknowledging your success in entertainment and your obvious dedication to making exciting movies, Henderson began, his tone carrying the authority of decades in commercial aviation leadership. However, flying jets in movies doesn't make you a real pilot any more than playing a doctor makes you a surgeon. There's a reason that commercial aviation requires years of training, thousands of flight hours, and continuous education, because passengers' lives depend on professional competence that can't be replicated on movie sets. The statement was designed to establish Henderson's expertise, while highlighting what he viewed as the fundamental limitation of Hollywood's approach to aviation. Positioning the meeting as an opportunity for the union leader to educate the actor about real aviation challenges, Cruise's response would begin a professional dialogue that would challenge Henderson's assumptions about both his aviation knowledge and his understanding of commercial flight operations. Captain Henderson, I deeply respect your experience, your leadership of ALPA, and the incredible safety record that commercial aviation has achieved under your guidance, Cruise replied, his tone carrying the intensity that had made him famous while demonstrating obvious respect for professional aviation expertise. The response immediately signaled that Cruise understood the professional context and was prepared to engage with aviation issues seriously rather than simply defending his entertainment career. Catching the attention of pilots who had expected a more defensive or celebrity-focused approach. You're absolutely right that movie flying is fundamentally different from commercial aviation, and I would never claim that my film experience qualifies me to discuss the complex challenges facing airline pilots and the passengers who depend on their expertise, Cruise continued. Henderson nodded approvingly, expecting this acknowledgement to lead to Cruise's deference to professional aviation authority and ALPA's concerns about Hollywood's influence on industry perception. However, Cruise added, I think you might be surprised by the extent of actual aviation training I've pursued beyond what was required for film production. And I believe some of what I've learned might actually support ALPA's goals for improving aviation safety and professional recognition. The statement immediately changed the dynamic in the room, suggesting that Cruise had prepared more comprehensively than Henderson had anticipated and was ready to discuss aviation issues from a position of actual knowledge rather than just entertainment industry perspective. That Henderson's expression showed skepticism mixed with curiosity as he realized that Cruise was claiming legitimate aviation expertise rather than simply acknowledging his limitations. Mr. Cruise, what specific aviation training could you possibly have completed that would be relevant to commercial airline operations and safety? Cruise's response would demonstrate a level of aviation commitment and knowledge that would shock everyone in the room, including Captain Henderson himself. Captain Henderson, over the past 4 years, I've completed private pilot certification, instrument rating, commercial pilot license, and airline transport pilot written examinations, Cruise replied, producing comprehensive flight training documentation that he had clearly prepared extensively. The certifications were legitimate and represented far more aviation education than anyone in the room had expected from a Hollywood actor, immediately changing the professional dynamic and establishing Cruise's credibility to discuss aviation issues from actual experience rather than just entertainment perspective. Furthermore, Cruise continued, I've logged over 1,200 hours of flight time in various aircraft types, including 347 hours in commercial jet simulators at major airline training facilities, where I studied the same procedures and emergency protocols used to train your union members. Henderson was now fully focused, recognizing that Cruise had pursued aviation training with the same intensity and commitment that had made him successful in film while demonstrating legitimate knowledge of commercial aviation procedures and challenges. But what really opened my eyes to the incredible complexity and professionalism of commercial aviation, Cruise said, connecting his tablet to the conference room's display system, was the opportunity to observe actual airline operations and study the challenges that ALPA members face every day. The screen displayed comprehensive analysis of commercial aviation operations that crews had clearly researched with professional thoroughness, showing understanding of industry issues that went far beyond entertainment portrayals. I spent over 200 hours in airline operation centers, observing flight dispatchers, maintenance coordinators, and crew scheduling specialists, Cruz explained, showing detailed documentation of his industry access and education. What I learned completely changed my understanding of commercial aviation and made me realize that Top Gun movies, while exciting, only show a tiny fraction of the skill, knowledge, and professionalism required for safe airline operations. Henderson was beginning to realize that Cruz had approached aviation education with unprecedented seriousness and had gained insights into commercial operations that exceeded what most entertainment industry figures ever attempted to understand. Mr. Cruz, I have to admit that your training record is more extensive than I expected, Henderson acknowledged, his professional respect beginning to replace his initial skepticism. But there's still a significant difference between individual flight training and understanding the systemic challenges facing commercial aviation: crew fatigue, regulatory compliance, equipment reliability, and the economic pressures that affect safety decision-making. Cruz's response would demonstrate that his aviation education had extended into exactly these systemic issues that Henderson considered most important for industry leadership and policy development. Captain Henderson, you're absolutely right about those systemic challenges, and studying them has been one of the most eye-opening aspects of my aviation education, Cruz replied, clicking to comprehensive analysis of commercial aviation safety systems and economic pressures. I've spent extensive time with ALPA safety committees, participating in fatigue studies, analyzing accident reports, and studying how economic pressures from airline management can compromise the safety culture that you and your members work so hard to maintain. The evidence of his involvement in actual industry safety research was impressive and demonstrated that Cruz had engaged with commercial aviation at a level that few outside the industry ever achieved. But here's what really concerns me about the relationship between Hollywood portrayals and real aviation, Cruz continued, and why I think ALPA's concerns about my films might actually be pointing toward bigger problems in how the public understands commercial aviation. He clicked to analysis that would reveal insights about aviation communication and public perception that had emerged from his comprehensive industry study. My research into commercial aviation has shown me that the public has almost no understanding of the incredible skill, training, and ongoing education required for safe airline operations, Cruz explained, displaying survey data about public perception of pilot qualifications and responsibilities. Most passengers assume that flying is highly automated and that pilots are mainly there for takeoff and landing, with no appreciation for the constant decision-making, system monitoring, and emergency preparedness that characterizes every flight. The analysis was accurate and reflected industry concerns that Henderson and ALPA had struggled to address through traditional public outreach and media relations. Furthermore, Cruz continued, the economic pressures facing airlines, cost-cutting in maintenance, crew scheduling, and training are creating safety risks that the public doesn't understand because they assume that government regulation automatically prevents all potential problems. He displayed specific examples of economic pressures affecting safety culture that demonstrated sophisticated understanding of industry challenges that concerned ALPA leadership but were rarely discussed publicly. Henderson was now completely engaged, realizing that Cruz had identified systemic industry problems that aligned with ALPA's most important advocacy priorities and safety concerns. What I'd like to propose, Cruz said, is that instead of viewing Hollywood portrayals as competition or threat to professional aviation, we explore how entertainment media could actually support ALPA's goals for improving public understanding of pilot professionalism and aviation safety challenges. The proposal represented a completely different approach to the relationship between entertainment and professional aviation, positioning Cruise as a potential ally rather than a threat to industry goals. For example, Cruise continued, Top Gun, Maverick could be followed by projects that showcase commercial aviation professionalism, the complexity of airline operations, and the ongoing challenges that ALPA members face in maintaining safety standards under economic pressure. He outlined specific concepts for entertainment projects that would highlight commercial aviation expertise, while addressing industry challenges in ways that could build public support for professional pilot interests and safety investments. Henderson was impressed by both the sophistication of Cruise's aviation knowledge and his willingness to use his entertainment platform to support rather than undermine commercial aviation professionalism and safety advocacy. Mr. Cruise, your understanding of commercial aviation challenges is far more comprehensive than I anticipated, Henderson admitted, his tone reflecting genuine professional respect rather than his initial skepticism. Your analysis of public perception problems and economic pressures affecting safety culture aligns closely with ALPA's most important concerns. And your proposal for using entertainment media to support rather than compete with professional aviation messaging is intriguing. The meeting concluded with Henderson and Cruise agreeing to collaborate on projects that would showcase commercial aviation professionalism while addressing industry challenges through entertainment media that could reach audiences far beyond traditional aviation publications and industry communications. Within months, their collaboration produced documentary projects highlighting commercial pilot training, safety culture, and the economic challenges facing airline operations. While Cruise became an unofficial advocate for ALPA's safety initiatives and professional recognition campaigns, the confrontation had transformed into partnership, demonstrating how Hollywood commitment to authenticity could support rather than undermine professional industries when approached with genuine respect and comprehensive education. Tom Cruise had not only defended his aviation credentials, but had established himself as a knowledgeable advocate for commercial aviation professionalism and safety. Captain Henderson had discovered that entertainment industry influence could be channeled toward supporting rather than competing with professional aviation goals when guided by actual industry knowledge and shared commitment to safety. The meeting became a model for productive collaboration between entertainment and professional industries, proving that celebrity influence could advance rather than compromise professional standards when combined with genuine education and mutual respect.